Guess I'll stand over here. All right, so today's talk is going to be on how modern threat actors are infiltrating computer networks.
Did you want to change slides for you?
Sure. Yeah, that's good. So a little quick, who am I? My name is Jakes. I am an offensive security consultant at Depth Security. There I do network, internal and external network pen tests, web pen tests, and on occasion we get cloud and mobile pen tests. I am also a miscellaneous and web player for the Friendly Maltese Citizens, hence the organizer badge. And I also play for IDEC. So before we start, I want to break down some expectations versus reality for when it comes to externally attacking companies' network. So I think like a lot of people think it's like the whole Hollywood thing where you're like, oh, I'm scanning the network and I see that they have this commercial VPN software, so I'm going to spend the next 6 months trying to find a 0-day in it, and then I'm going to use my 0-day to hack into the network, and it's going to be so cool and exciting. But in reality, 99% of the time, you're just trying way too hard, and you just don't have to do all that. And in reality, it's more something like, next please. You're always exploiting humans, whether it'll be phishing or whether they're using bad passwords. Also, you're you're abusing humans and you're abusing sysadmins' misconfigurations. That's important because you're not relying on some big commercial software to have issues. You're relying on one guy or maybe a small IT team using commercial software but making misconfigurations themselves. Next, please. So a quick note on Active Directory. 95% of Fortune 500 companies, which like the top 500 companies in America who make the most money pretty much, are using Active Directory in their networks. And ever since Azure came out, about, I think it's like around 10 years ago, a lot of companies have slowly began to move their on-prem stuff, their on-prem Active Directory, into the cloud. And a lot of them are kind of in this area where they're still moving around, or they have a business or use case for it, and it's called a hybrid setup. So these hybrid setups integrates Active Directory and Entra ID, which is the new name for Azure Cloud because Microsoft. Makes perfect sense. All right, next. So the easiest way that threat actors are breaking into people's accounts is password spraying on Entra ID. Next, please. So this is like a 4-phase process. The first process or first step is OSINT. I will use resources like Hunter.io and Voila Nobort, which are, I think, they're intended to be used as lead generation software to help like people find the right people to sell stuff to if you're like a salesperson or whatever. But I use it to find all the publicly available emails associated with domain. Also, I use sources like LinkedIn, which you can go to the company's page. You can extract all of the first and last names, and you can sort of start building a username list from there. And also, the most interesting part, I think, of the OSINT phase is the Fantastic Azure survey. So there was a security researcher named Nix the Warlock, I think. Let's call him Nix. He did a 3-year study of Azure where he did a bunch of enumeration and found out the most common first names and last names that were used in Azure environments. There was over 70 million usernames collected, and they were all filtered out with US Census lists, so that was all public data, and it was done ethically or whatever. Next slides, please. So so something interesting about this is, so there's 70 million like different emails or whatever, or usernames that are in that survey. And it would be completely ridiculous to go through all of them. It would take absolutely ages. So you have these tools called Teams-enum and OneDrive-enum. And how they work is that they abuse Microsoft endpoints that are not rate limited. and they return, or they give indications via like error codes or certain things on the page that indicate whether or not an account exists within an Office 365 environment. Something important to note is these tools sometimes have false positives. So all of the emails that I get from doing open source intelligence, I do not run through that. I will always spray every single email I get no matter what. And then all of the census data, I usually get through like for an average pen test where I have 3 to 5 days. I will do about 3 million, the top 3 million emails of the census data, and I'll churn it through this. Next. Passwords. So as we all know, humans are always going to be the weakest link of cybersecurity. I was quite surprised whenever I started learning pen testing that passwords like these are very common. People like to use passwords that involve the current season, and then usually the year they're in, and exclamation points seem to be the most popular. Next thing that I'll try is the company name mutations. So if I was trying to pass a spray against Amazon, I would try something like the company name with, sometimes I'll use elite speak it, which is like switching like a O for a 0 or an A for an ampersand. And I'll add the current year, a special character. Here's another example for Walmart where I'm switching out A's for ampersands. And another example. Another very interesting vector is onboarding credentials. There are sometimes accounts that, like contractors or sometimes maybe service accounts, where it's like they set the passwords to like welcome to Amazon or change me. And this will become very interesting later because these accounts that get forgotten about and don't end up getting deleted after they're being done, or they just never get used at all, become a very ripe vector for exploitation later. And also, another very fun way to get passwords is through leaked credentials. I'm guessing a lot of you guys have heard of Have I Been Pwned? HIBP? Yeah. So pretty much, Have I Been Pwned won't give you passwords for leaked data, but a website called leakcheck.io, you pay like a couple $100 a year to access the site, and it'll give you access to all these different data leaks. And essentially, you just put your domain in of the company you're trying to attack, and then it'll go through and search all the breaches emails with that domain have been like in. So I think I don't think I have a silent, but there have been times where we have literally taken a breach credential, tested it against a VPN, no multi-factor authentication, and that's how we entered an external network. Very easy. So that's why I try to emphasize that it's like a lot of the time, for like 99% of attacks, it's nothing crazy. It's just kind of knowing what, it's more like a knowledge thing, less so than a skill thing. Next, please. Spraying. So service accounts are another thing that I didn't add before. These are accounts that are like IT at depthsecurity.com, admin at depthsecurity.com, HR, those sort of accounts, because you won't find those, you may not find those doing open source intelligence. A quick note on Azure Smart Lockout, every pen tester's worst nightmare. Azure Smart Lockout is Microsoft's machine learning, I think they call it like a machine learning algorithm. And pretty much it's used to detect malicious logins. It's a black box. Microsoft doesn't tell us how it works, but security researchers have deducted a few things. The easiest thing they detect on is IPs. If you're sending a bunch of login requests from the same IP very quickly, they're going to shut down your IP really quickly. But I will talk about how we bypass that in a moment. But also, it seems to be you can get good or 10 good password spraying attempts per account, and then Azure Smart Lockout is going to completely lock you out for like 3 or 4 days. So it takes some strategy depending on like how long you have to do an assessment to figure out, should I password spray all at once? Should I spread it out? It's a bit of an art. But regarding the, an important note is that when Azure Smart Lockout locks out accounts. They don't actually lock out the user from trusted locations. They're only being locked out from untrusted locations, which usually our IPv6 subnet is untrusted. They wouldn't have logged in from there. So we aren't able to log in or try to log in, but the people can continue their day-to-day work if they're logging in from a trusted IP. So to deal with the IP situation, Linode has a service where you can get a slash, I think it's like a /52 IPv6 subnet. So just, I think it's like billions and billions of IPv6 addresses. And you use a tool called Trevor Proxy to set that up. And what happens is Trevor Proxy opens up a SOX proxy. You use Trevor Spray to send a spray request. It gives it to Trevor Proxy, and it pretty much uses the SOX proxy and then it forwards it to the request to one of the billions of IP addresses that you have access to on your Linode machine, and then it sends your request. So it's pretty much just rotates IPs like every request you make. Next, please. Okay, demonstration. This is going to be. Uh-oh. Did anybody track what time I started? Because I'm kind of curious how long I. My VPN disconnected. One moment. That's a Linode server that I use. Seems to only allow logins from the US. So whenever I try to log in from Malta, it complains. I have to reconnect to my work VPN. All right. Okay, so like I said, the first phase of an attack was doing the open source intelligence. I have taken the liberty to do some of the open source intelligence as to not completely bore you. But yeah, like I said, the first things I would do is like look up the domains on tools like hunter.io and Volano boards. And I'm doing this password spraying test against my own company. I got permission to do it. And we only have like 15 employees, so there's not really like many emails to try against, but you can see you get a decent amount of emails. I don't see mine on there. That's not me. That's my boss. But yeah, so that was the first thing I did. And then the next thing I did was I got the service account list, which has a bunch of common names like info, admin, support, sales, administrator, etc., etc. And then the last thing that we need to do, and I saved that for the demonstration, is to parse the breach data, append a debtsecurity.com email onto it, and then conduct username reconnaissance to see which emails were actually real. So first, I'm going to use this Python script, and I'm going to cat it so you can see what's happening. So pretty much this is taking okay, cool. So pretty much this is taking every last name in that from that Azure research, and it's appending all of these letters. And they also did research and figured out which letters were the most common. So I took these letters from the research. Then pretty much it's just appending J to the first first value in the email file, M to the first value, A to the first value, and I will do that now. So once we do that, we get around 2,500,000 email addresses. So now we need to do the password spray, or sorry, the username enumeration. I use Trevor Spray actually, which pretty much is doing the same exact thing as OneDrive and num. So I'll run Trevor Spray -- recon security.com. Okay, so the one thing that sucks about the software is that it always tries to discover OA instances, which takes like 30 seconds. So I think this is a good opportunity to ask if anybody has any questions so far.
Handle all the name, last name, like first name and last name formats. Like,
Sure.
does it generate all the like first name dot the last name, or like
Mhm.
the first letter of first name and then the last name?
Sure, great question. So I have several different scripts to account for the different email formats. And whenever you get first name that last name, it really sucks because it really limits like the amount of like coverage you can get. I feel like because you have to do there's so many more combinations doing full names compared to those like first initials, and you can't really get like the best coverage. But yes, the research covers it has first names, it has last names, it has first initials, I think middle initials as well. But any other questions? Holy heck, that is slow. Yeah, there we go. Son of a buck. So wait on that again. That's gonna take a minute. Yeah.
How far down will you go? Like, will you try to personally employees?
Sure. So on a normal external penetration test, here I can stand up for this. On a normal external penetration test, depending on the size of the company and how many like external facing assets they have, we will only have like 3 to 5 days. So this is typically the extent of how far I will go. However, if we do conduct like phishing assessments, I will go and like find all the like high importance people like the CEOs or the C-suite or like the IT admins and all that, and I will go in and like properly dig into them, and I will even like in addition to like trying to phish them, I'll do like a curated password spraying test against them. Like if I go to their Facebook or like a CEO's Facebook and I see they have a dog called Duke, I'm gonna try like DUK3. Maybe see if you can figure out how old the dog is, and if you can, you go like 2021 if the dog is 4 years old! Exclamation point, that sort of thing. But I forgot to thread this, so it's going to be very slow. Usually you can thread this to like 150 threads because there's no rate limiting on this endpoint. So you can go through like 2.5 million requests in like not a very long time. But I wish I were able to do threads, dang it. Eventually, there is some accounts that I'll find pretty high up. I'll wait for that. But it's kind of interesting because our firm doesn't do phishing by default on externals, but some of our competitors, they will do phishing by default. We haven't gotten like much complaints about it. Ah, there we go. So this is our project manager, Jennifer Rogers, has found a valid user. It was through OneDrive num. This sends a 302 error code on, I think it's a SharePoint. No, I think it's through a SharePoint endpoint. But yeah, the 302s and the rest of them are 404ing. Obviously, we're not going to sit here and wait for all these emails to go through. So I will cancel out of this. And I did like a couple 100,000 accounts last night. Yeah, please. I think my VPS is struggling because I'm so far away. And I'm also connecting through another VPN. Okay. I'm gonna. Oh, I disconnected from my VPN. What the heck? Yeah, got disconnected. Relogging back into my VPN. One moment, please. Okay. Okay, so in order to see what's users we have successfully enumerated, you cat a file from the .trevor spray directory, which is in your home folder. And I need to grep for depth security. I don't leak our other clients. And when I only did a couple 100,000 emails, I was able to find 5, which if you think about it, for a 15-person company, it's not completely terrible. Obviously, it'll find a lot more if it was able to go through all the list, and you combine that with our open source intelligence, we're getting pretty decent coverage. Something interesting to note is that once you do, if you do hit a password spray, you can download. It's like I forget what it's called, but it allows you to download all of the users in a tenant. So if you can password spray one person, you can get access to all the emails in the tenant, and then you can start respraying again and keep trying to see how many different accounts you can attack. But okay, we did that. I'm gonna do cat. So in this case, we're going to have like around 434 emails to spray with. The majority of those are the service accounts. But like I said, I don't validate those because I have time during an assessment to go through 400 emails. It doesn't take that long. So I just, in the off chance that the tool has a false positive, I just try them anyway. So now we do oh wait, we have to figure out passwords first. So let's crowdsource this for a company called Depth Security, and based on what you guys have learned, what passwords do you want me to try? Good choice. Okay. Password.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. You want to do 2025, 25, 24, 23? Okay, I'll try. Can spice it up. Use a different. It was like 15 years ago. You want to try? You think the passwords would have been updated by then? Yeah. So we got to keep it like a little recent. But here's the thing, though. Is those unused service accounts or the unused like contractor accounts that they get forgotten about? Those are often the accounts that don't have multi-factor authentication set up, and those might be the accounts that you hit with like really old dates like that. The problem is that on like a 3 to 5 day assessment, you get 10 attempts, and then you have to wait 3 or 4 days. So a threat actor who will have months and months to attack a network can totally have a huge password list. But for me, when I'm doing a pen test, I have to choose what I think is most likely to succeed. And we have found that using seasons or the company name or these welcome passwords are the most likely to succeed. Password?
When can I change
Special character?
question mark?
Question mark. Ooh, I'm not sure I've sprayed a question mark before. We're not going to be able to get through all these, but I'll take one or two more from the crowd if anybody wants to.
Don't forget the classics like password and I love you.
What was that?
Don't forget the classics like password and I love you. Are there like limits to like to what the password has to be? Like you know before that it has to contain symbol or number or something.
So when we're coming at this from an external perspective, when we don't have credentials, we don't know the password policy. Something that's really nice about Azure is that they can do you can do dictionary block lists. So what companies who have good security posture will do, if they're not going like passwordless already, they will block out words like spring or like I'm guessing our Entra ID tenant for depth security, it blocks out the word summer, it blocks out the word spring, it blocks out the words fall, all of the seasons. Words like password, not allowed. Any mutation of the word depth or depth security is probably banned as well. But a lot of companies don't do that. So let's get one more. What about you in the back left? Anybody? I'll pick one for us. We've hit this one before. Unbelievable that works. Welcome one exclamation point. So bad. But yeah, so now I will build the password spraying command using Trevor Spray. First off, I need to oh, screw me. Okay, Trevor. Cool. So this is me setting up the Trevor proxy. What's it called? Socks proxy, and it's pretty much just forwarding everything out to that /56 IPv6 range. And like I said, it's like I think it's like billions, if not trillions, of IP addresses. I'm going to run that, and the ampersand at the end is going to put it in the background so I can continue. Then I'm going to do. Oh wait. So the first thing we need to do is figure out the password spraying endpoint, and to do that, we can do Trevor spray -- recon depthsecurity.com. This time we don't have to wait. We can scroll up. And yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take this token endpoint, copy it, and then capital. So pretty much what this does, it's kind of scuffed, but I kind of like it anyways. It's running Trevor Spray against each password and a bash for loop. So we're going to take our passwords list, and then I'm going to do this real quick. Okay, wait for a second. I don't have tab click or a arrow tab set up yet, so it takes a second. I wish I could. Okay. So while I wait for that, as you can see the J, the D, the NL, and LD, and all of that. The J is jitter. So whenever I think when it either finds a valid account or it finds a spray, it'll wait 5 seconds or anywhere from 0 to 5 seconds before going on to the next spray. Delay, I forget exactly what each of these switches do, but you can modify how much time there is between like each request or whenever there's a successful request, the jitter, all that. I just set it to those values up there. I paste in that endpoint so Trevor Spray knows what tenant to spray it against. It's using a random user agent, which makes sense. And we're directing it to go out of the ETH0 interface, which is the subnet that has all of the IPv6 addresses. Why is that /56? We'll see if this works. Uh-oh. I think I see what I did wrong. Wait. It is the same. Oh shoot, which octet's different? E002 E. Ah yeah, I see it now. I used this is my personal Linode instance, but I also use one from work sometimes. So I think I crossed over a command on accident. Oh, that's not good. Okay, I will just okay, I'll do this. Cool. You. Come all the way back over here. Okay, maybe now. Yeah, there we go. Oh, something messed up. Oh, I used the wrong file. As you can see, the -u specifies the usernames list. I did not update it to the correct username list. Give me a moment to get over there again. Very good. What the? What is happening? Sorry, what? Oh my god, I didn't do .txt, did I? Okay. Good catch, thank you. And now the use password lists are gonna go in. You know what? Sorry guys, I can't type. Okay, hopefully this is better. Please, please, please. Okay, looking much better. So yes, this is password spraying. This is pen testing. It's not very hard. You just gotta learn how to do it. I'm not gonna sit here and let this spray forever because it'd also be really bad if I hit a password spray on my own company, a cybersecurity company, live on a live on a demonstration. That would be really funny. But okay, I'm a little over time, so I will wrap this up. We're up here. Okay, so let's say hypothetically you're password spraying, blah blah blah, and you got a hit. It's it@blah.com, password welcome1 exclamation point. First, if you get lucky, they just won't have multi-factor authentication. And sometimes in 2025, we still see it, which is abysmal, but nonetheless, we carry on. But before I get into bypassing multi-factor authentication, I need to talk about self-enrollment. Earlier, I was talking to you about how unused accounts will become a very ripe vector for attack later. This is exactly why. Most tenants, by default, will allow you to self-enroll into MFA. So at first, you think, oh, hey, this isn't a big deal. A user logs into their account, they log into MFA, the attack window should be pretty short. But when you have accounts that get set up and they never get logged into, it happens way more often than you think. You will find that if you password spray against an account, you can just enroll into MFA. So now, if there were resources in a tenant that required you to use MFA to access them, you can just access resources that required MFA because you now control the MFA over the account. It's the kind of the meme is multi-factor authentication, but if you really look at it in the account as self-enrollment, it's just single-factor authentication because all you needed to know was the password. So in Entra ID, we have these lovely things called conditional access policies. I will show you one later, but one of the most common things you can do with them is either whitelist certain resources to require multi-factor authentication, or you can do the inverse and only a few resources will require it. We can use a tool called Find Me Access to pretty much brute force between every single service that Microsoft has, and it'll check to see, hey, can I access this without multi-factor authentication? And you will find many times that there are these gaps. Like sometimes you can access the Azure Graph API, which is horrible if you can do that. Sometimes you can access the Azure Key Vault. You can access Office apps, Outlook. It'll check for all known services, client IDs, etc., etc. And another really fun thing that you can do with conditional access policies, which I will go to here next, is okay, I'm sorry. So this is a conditional access policy from a client for a pen test we just did. And so we see here we have a MFA enabled, and it includes all users on the tenant, but it excludes the single user, and it's the global admin account. So if I were to password spray the global admin, I wouldn't even need to use multi-factor authentication, and I would just have complete tenant takeover. It's the user laziness, man. You're attacking humans. You're not really attacking computers. But it was really weird because this they had really strong caps policies, but then they did stupid stuff like this. Like they required MFA resources. Oh, so like they deny login to all resources if they're not at an approved location. So actually, I think maybe that would have stopped me because I would need to be at an approved location in order to access any resources. Oh, okay, sorry. It's hard because the usernames are blurred out. So this admin lockdown is for one user, and it's for one of their global admin accounts, and you can only access it from approved locations. That's good. They should do that with all of their admin accounts, but yet they do that with an admin account. Grr. But they do a blocked block device flow, which is a good thing, and also a very, very good thing. They require multi-factor authentication on all risky sign-ins. So it's more of the machine learning voodoo Microsoft magic. But if a login is deemed high risk, then it'll block the login. And that has definitely stopped me a few times in tests before, where it sees it's like a new location, Entra marks it as high risk, and you just completely shut down. The account gets like locked, and you cannot continue. But something I forgot to go and say. People in their conditional access policies will also sometimes do not allow or allow you to access certain resources without MFA through a device type. So there's also an option in this to where you can do more than just a Windows 10 Chrome user agent. You will do like Android phones, iOS phones, and you'll find that sometimes you can log in with like an Android phone to a certain application without MFA. God knows why, but people do it. And I was going to say something else. I forgot. Yeah, so the consequences for being able to access resources without MFA can be really bad. Stuff like Microsoft Teams, Outlook, that's like chats between you and your colleagues, or sometimes it can be chats with other people as well for Microsoft Teams. Outlook, that can be you talking to like anybody. And SharePoint. SharePoint is often like an absolute treasure trove of information. I've found confidential documents, like talking about like schematics. Like we did a Fortune. This wasn't me doing the test, but we did like a Fortune 50 company. And when we got into the SharePoint, there was passwords, there was schematics for like things that are worth like millions and millions and maybe even billions of dollars. And it's just there, and it wasn't without MFA, fortunately. But like once we were able to get it into account anyways, it's just like, it's crazy, just like what everybody just puts on the internet. But yeah, like confidential data, trade secrets, passwords, the whole shebang. If you can access the Graph API, you can get all of the information from the tenant, like all the emails, and way more information about the tenant than you should need to know, because the Graph API just allows you to literally access anything. And if they do connect their SSL VPN to their Active Directory, you can sometimes maybe get lucky and not have multi-factor authentication and access the VPN. And obviously the consequence of that is being internal network access, which is bad. So the really easy way of getting internal access is SSL VPNs that are exposed for people to, the real use case for them is obviously for people to connect in and be able to access internal resources while they're working remote. But threat actors will either take a password, username and password that they found from spraying Active Directory or Entra ID. They will reuse that password against like something like Fortinet or like Cisco VPNs, blah, blah, blah. And if it uses Entra ID for the authentication, if you're allowed to, if that account is allowed to use the VPN, you're in. Sometimes there are non-domain joined SSL VPNs, but the person will reuse credentials. So we spray it on Entra ID, we just take the same password and we try it in here, and you get access to the internal network. One final small thing about this. Has anybody here ever heard of an MFA exhaustion attack? It's so scuffed.
You ask the user so many times that they just give up and accept it.
So I think Microsoft did some studies, and they said that they did it on like X amount of people. I think they were like, they didn't actually do the attack themselves, obviously. They're not attacking their own customers, but they were like analyzing logs that customers sent. And they were like 1% of the time, people would accept a request if you just kept spamming them. Because people get annoyed, people are tired, maybe people are drunk, and they're like, I would genuinely, like, if I were at the point where they were using a type of MFA where I could do this, I might genuinely OSINT the person and see if they're like, oh yeah, party this Friday, we're gonna get drunk, and then like do it while they're at the party, because if they're drunk, they're not thinking, oh yeah, I'll just click that. This is annoying. I'm just gonna allow it to go through. Like the OSINT gang can go crazy, man. My personal account and the protection against this is whenever you send a request, it will ask you to type in a number that is seen on the MFA screen, and the attacker obviously can't know it unless they have the device, so that completely destroys that attack vector. Entra ID by default uses the number thing, so you cannot do MFA exhaustion attacks, but some VPNs you can still do it. And we've done it before at depth, and it's worked like I think once or twice. So the TLDR, the easiest way to infiltrate modern networks, just log in. It's that easy. It's so bad. But how can we defend ourselves? The most important thing is passwordless authentication, pretty much. Microsoft is starting to move towards the FIDO2 security standards, and pretty much it's relying on something you have, and sometimes, depending on, I guess, the security that you set up, something you are and something you know. Something you have is something like a YubiKey that you can, a YubiKey, or like a smart card or something like that. It's like a physical object that you have, that you own. And sometimes they'll follow that up with something you are or something you know. Something you are is like a retinal scanner or like a fingerprint or like a Face ID, that sort of thing. And something you know is, I don't like this one, but it'll sometimes ask for a PIN as well on top of the security key. But for now, a lot of companies aren't ready to make that transition because it takes hardware, and hardware costs money, and implementing costs, blah, blah, blah. So strong password policies, make sure you have like at least like 15 characters. The best way to create passwords these days, in my opinion, is just to use passphrases. So like pick something that you can remember, or use a password manager, that works too. But like I also talked about dictionary blacklists, things, words like password. If you work at a company called Amazon, don't allow the word Amazon in your passwords. Don't allow summer, spring, that sort of thing. And you should audit your Entra ID environments for MFA gaps and access to legacy protocols. So you just use a tool like that. You can see what MFA gaps you may have, and you should close those. And also legacy protocols. There are some legacy protocols that do not allow you, that do not support MFA. They're just that old, right? MFA wasn't a thing back then. One of them that still exists is SMTP on there's like a Microsoft SMTP server that allows you to authenticate. So in a default Entra ID environment, you can authenticate to an SMTP server without MFA and with no default conditional access policies. Like this is just by default. You can log into an SMTP server, and you can send emails as any user completely without MFA, which is like, my God. And it's getting deprecated March 2026. But for now, it's still an interesting attack vector. This talk was supposed to be about infiltrating networks and then also escalating privileges in networks, but I don't think we have time. So unless you guys like have, I can do like a quick 2-minute brief about internal stuff, or if we want to get to the awards ceremony or whatever, we can do that. Any questions? Yeah.
Is it more limited to the defense like the ocean kind of thing, like into the public, being not being public and stuff, like depending on get that?
You can. A lot of that is like teaching your employees like good OPSEC. Like you can tell them like maybe don't use LinkedIn, or there's certain LinkedIn privacy settings that you can set, because whenever I'm doing the LinkedIn enumeration, I'm like weeks before my test starts, I'm going in and I use a sock puppet account, which is like a fake account that can't be traced back to our company. And what happens with that is you have to be, the more people you're connected to in a company, the more people you can see from that company on LinkedIn. It's like it allows you to branch out. So the more people you connect to, the more people you can see. So if you have people who have their security settings like sets, like I think LinkedIn has like a private setting or something where you have to like be connected with them already before you can see their profile. I think that can maybe help with that. Those enumeration endpoints that we used from OneDrive and Teams and them, they're Microsoft saying it's working as intended. We're not going to fix it, so you can't really do anything about that. But yeah, a lot of things about the OSINT data is that once it's out there, it's out there. We really should just switch to passwordless. That's how you fix everything. But yeah, any other questions? Okay, very good.